Lots of magic numbers to discuss here. You could talk about 17. That's the victory margin for Team India. 3. That's the number of matches they won the T20I series by. 6. That's 6-0 as far as the entire series is concerned. And the final number I'll throw at you is 1. That's where India's ranking stands at the end of this T20 International Series. India, the number 1 team in the world. Whether you believe it or not, the fact is a convincing victory helps you get up there. It's certainly a good starting point for the T20 World Cup at the end of the year. Here we are on Cricbuzz Live to look back at today's game, look back at the entire sojourn at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. 184 for 5 and 20 overs played, 167 for 9. But in all fairness, the 17-run victory is probably flattering the West Indies ever so slightly. India always in charge with that total on the board. I wonder if my expert panel agrees. We'll find out. Ajay Jadeja, Dinesh Karthik, DK, were West Indies ever really seriously, properly in contention?
They were. I think when Nicholas Puran was batting with Romario Shepherd, I've heard Ajay Bhai say this, and I like what I hear when he says it. He says that when a batsman gets going, those are the days you need to finish games. He's had 3 opportunities now, and all 3 batted brilliantly and got 50s, but just not there at the end. I think he himself knows it. You could see his reactions post getting out and sitting in the dugout. He's put in an effort, and albeit it being a lone fighter at times. Last game it was Robin Powell. This game to an extent it was Romario Shepherd. Just not there to help them cross the line at the end. As you can see, the scorecard suggests that just one score in excess of 50, and you get a couple of 20s there. But other than that, there's nothing to choose from, and that's been a bit of a issue.
42 for 3 is what they scored in the last 5 overs. India had almost double of that, if not more. And I think it was almost like one of those dreams, Ajay. I'm not sure if you ever had them, where you're running after something in your dream, and it's just not coming closer to you. It's just going further and further away.
It's every night, Gautam. The dreams are every night and every day. What you run after, it just seems to be going away. You're right. West Indies. Today, in fact, I thought they were probably in the chase, at over number 6, 7, roughly at that stage, because they got off to that great start. And but at the end, it ended up like that. But instead of what I think the target that they were chasing and the balls that they were facing, there was a difference. There was one guy in the middle who came in called Harshal Patel and slowed it even further. So, he was moving and moving and moving. But every time Harshal Patel's over came, the target seemed to, go away a little. And then they would try and catch up. And then he would go away a little further away again from them. 4 overs, 22 for a guy who bowls mostly at the end. Today, the other day, we saw numbers were totally different. 46 or something that he had gone. But that's why they got closer to that total. I think Harshal Patel's probably playing the key role at the moment when we're chasing. It's almost like what Jasprit Bumrah was doing. But whereas with Jasprit Bumrah, it's, many things. What surprises me is with Harshal Patel, it's just that slower one, and people are still, struggling is probably the right word, that they have no clue what to do with it. Every time he came back, he brought India back into the game.
And I think that's good news for Team India, because certain gentlemen that Ajay just mentioned, Jasprit Bumrah, not part of this setup right now, but very much part of the scheme of things. So if you add Jasprit Bumrah to the mix with the Harshal Patel and with everybody else that's there, I think it augurs well for Team India. DK, Harshal Patel today, definitely one of the positives.
Oh, he's been an absolute positive this whole series. I think from the time he's come into the Indian team, he's done everything right. He's looked good. I think Rohit has used him brilliantly as well. Bringing him on the 7th over, not exposing him in the power play, and then getting him and bringing him in those crucial overs once the field spreads. Every time he feels that he needs a wicket, he brings him on, which is very clever, and he delivers, because that slow one that he bowls is a hard one to pick for the batters. I remember seeing Dwayne Bravo do that to a few batsmen, where he beats them with the one that's the slower flighted one, but this one, as the Roston Chase dismissal, you could see that he was completely beaten for pace there, and that's a great sign.
Yeah, that's, if you have a look at ticking boxes, Ajay, we're obviously looking at certain roles, certain slots going ahead to the Sri Lanka series, and of course to that T20 World Cup at the end of the year. So looking at death bowling, there's a positive you'd look at, and maybe just put a little check in the box there.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubts. I mean, I know the World Cup's a long way, and in fact, when you ask me after the last game, what's the team that should play, I feel that Bhuvi should have played and Harshal should have rested, because I think he's definitely a tick for the World Cup at this stage. But the more you play him, it probably will get, not easier is the wrong word, but people get used to something, or they keep watching you, they keep watching your pattern, the way you bowl. When do you bowl that slower one? When do you bowl that Yorker? So the more time you expose him, I think it'll be less and less effective. But on the other hand, I think Australian grounds are these huge grounds, so where he would be very useful. And I have no doubts in my mind at this moment. If Indian team had to be picked, there is no way. You probably write his name not before Bumrah, but alongside Bumrah at least.
Yeah, and let's not forget he hasn't had a chance to show his wares, but Harshal Patel can hit a long ball if given the opportunity. So that's just an added bonus if Team India should need it. Pretty much in the mold of what many of the West Indian all-rounders are, but the problem is if West Indies look back at their record in their favourite format, it's not something that they'd want to put up on their dressing room walls, or maybe they'd want to put it up on their dressing room walls to try and inspire the rest of their team. T20 International, 68 matches, 21 won, 41 lost. A record that's actually worse than their ODI record, DK. And this, I mean, we don't always necessarily say numbers tell a story. In this case, numbers do tell a story. Multiple world champions in the T20 format. This is a West Indies team that's pretty much been in the decline since.
Absolutely, I think the numbers show that they've obviously not played up to potential. But the good thing, if at all there is a silver lining, I think them beating England in the recently concluded series before they took the flight to India, they did really well in that, and they managed to beat them 3-2. So that will be some solace. But this series has definitely not gone according to their plans. Losing 6-0 in both formats of the white ball game, I don't think will sit well with West Indies at the moment.
If you look at their numbers since the 2016 T20 World Cup, which of course, since we're talking about the Eden Gardens, was one of their happier moments, that famous finish by Carlos Brathwaite at the Eden Gardens. And this is what's happened to them after that World T20 win. And if you look at the percentages, 2017, 60%. Every other year, the win percentage is under 50%. We haven't included today's game in it. But Ajay, these are numbers that they want to look hard at, because while we might say, okay, listen, fixed test cricket, where is their ODI cricket going? This is supposed to be their favorite format. T20 was invented for the West Indies.
Yeah, they'd be disappointed. I mean, if they look at that screen and, if we look at those numbers, and all of us also who come here and talk, or anywhere in the world, feel that West Indies, this is their format, this is their skill. But I think why that probably happens to all of us is we watch a lot of West Indians, not just playing for West Indies, but for the other franchises, at least in India or around the world. And that probably stays in our mind and say, look, oh, this is the talent, this is the style that they play with. But, the numbers that you showed us on the screen very clearly shows that, this team probably is, they probably would be at the bottom of the world ranking if you look at it. I mean, if you put, I don't think England would have lost so many games, neither Pakistan, nor India, nor South Africa. So they're not at the top even in this format. And these numbers tell you that story. And, to intrigue or get into those numbers, I think the only way I see it is that maybe there are too many players who play the same way. There are too many so talented players that they don't know actually what is their best 11 and how to go about and play. I think that's something that is the only reason that I feel that, those numbers that you saw, because the kind of talent that they have is unbelievable. I mean, anybody who walks in looks good enough to play. But, maybe they play in a different format. Just as an example, Shepherd that we saw today, who was almost shepherding them to the victory, ended up with 20 plus balls with only 20 something runs. So, the impact, the ball is hit so hard, it goes so far, but the consistency is not there. So if it's not a 6, there's no single. If it's not a 4, there's no 2s in it. And while that's happening, each one's playing 1 over from this side, 1 over from that side. So as individuals, they probably have the greatest players around at the moment in the world. But as a team, they don't look that good, and those numbers were actually a true reflection.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Just to round off this discussion, DK, is there anything they could have done differently with the personnel that they have? Obviously, you're talking about someone like an Andre Russell probably getting added back into the setup, but with the existing players that they have over here, Shimron Hetmeyer as well, another player, is there anything they could have done differently in the T20s where the results may have been different?
See, what happens is when you're constantly looking outside and thinking, once these players come in, it's going to get stronger. Because that's what happened in the recently concluded T20 World Cup as well. Gale, Bravos, they hadn't played much for West Indies, but they had said, yes, we're ready to play for West Indies. But when they came in, the results didn't exactly go their way. Yes, they have Russells, Narayans, Shimron Hetmeyer, Sharfain Rutherford. They have a few T20 specialists. But the question is they haven't played. So when they do come together and gel as a team, they need to play a certain amount of cricket to figure out who fits which role and what they will be doing exactly. When they just come in straight to a World Cup, it can be hard to just assemble a group of talented players together and expect results. We have seen that teams which are well-oiled units play together for some period of time before exactly figuring out which way to go. And that's what I felt sometimes about West Indies.
And Ajay, we saw the result of the confusion, if you could call it that, in the T20 World Cup, because there they were, defending champions in a sense, looking to add another title to what they've done in the past. But it was just not, with the confusion of the guys like Gale who were on their way out, but they were still in the setup. A few key players got left behind. Now they'll need to, as you said, look at the right kind of personnel for the end of the year.
Yeah, and I think where they were expecting those, when you have those great players or big players, or names at least, you expect, even if one of them has a good day, he'll see you through. Or, a couple of them have a good day, they'll see you through. So then you play in a different way. Whereas a unit plays in a different way. I mean, why go too far? I mean, look at last year's IPL. Just looking at the last two games, the finals. If you put Delhi and, Chennai side by side, you'd look at the Delhi side and say, look at, the players in that Delhi side. How can, if one of them has a good day, they'll see through. But, they use Uttapa brilliantly for that game. They used, somebody else. So little roles are played by different people, and that makes a stronger unit. And that's something that West Indies will have to do, I guess. Or, again, keep waiting. And I still believe that, these guys have the capability, even on their own, to win on their own, single-handedly, but that doesn't happen very often, because if you have a good day, then somebody else has not even come in. So one has to have a good day, but that's never guaranteed. Whereas all of you put together little pieces here and there, that unit actually performs more often consistently than individuals taking the game away. And that's something that West Indies has never played that way. I mean, the problem is, Gautam, you and I will talk and we understand this language. We probably think like this as Indians, how we play or how we see. Whereas, when a West Indian team's playing, we've got to remember that, their upbringing is different. Their thought process is different. They think differently. So maybe, there is another, between what we're talking and what they're thinking at this moment, there could be a third aspect, or whatever, the third, fourth, fifth that you're looking at. Because I doubt that the West Indies, I know maybe the Trinidad guys think a little like Indians, maybe the Guyanese, but definitely not the Jamaicans, the Antiguans, the guys who come from the other islands. So it is a tough one for them. And I think if there was an answer that I had to find, I think it is the captain. Your leader in West Indies is probably more important than anywhere else in the world, because it is a very difficult task for that leader to keep these guys together and get them all to think like that, because they're all West Indians. But West Indies is, a totally different world from where we've come up. So I think we may think this is the right way, but I still don't think what I think is the right way for West Indies.
Well, they have the most defeats now in T20 internationals, 83 being the number. And yes, that cultural difference could be the situation as well. Add St. Lucia, add St. Kitts, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a mixture of islands. It's an amalgamation of cultures that come together to make the West Indies uniquely. They play cricket, no other sport. Every other sport, whether it's the Olympics or football or whatever it is, they play as individual countries. Maybe that's something they need to just address at the moment. Just to give you those numbers once again, and To remind you of where it stands in 2022, it's 37.5 the win percentage, won 3, lost 5. The overall number is not something they'd be proud of. But from India's point of view, just the very discussion we had moments ago about what the West Indies lacked is what India had. They had players in different roles performing them. There was no Virat Kohli today. There was no Rishabh Pant today. Rohit Sharma didn't come off today. But who was there to finish off the innings? There was Surya Kumar Yadav. There was Venkatesh Iyer. And I think they found players to play those roles, and that made a huge difference, TK. We've spoken already about Venkatesh Iyer. Of course, he added a couple of wickets to his kitty, but his finishing kick with the bat in hand was what's giving India that big positive. All the games.
I think he's had a fabulous series. He's batted brilliantly. He's come in at different situations and batted outstandingly well. And with the ball today, he showed what he can do, changing up his pace, and obviously on a wicket which helped the batters still manage to bowl a couple of balls and get important batters out. So I think he's had a very, very good series overall.
Certainly has Venkatesh Iyer. If you look at those strike rates, if you look at the way he finished, stayed not out, was, you could call them match-winning innings in every single sense. And keeping him company today, Shreyas Iyer, again playing in front of his home crowd. Maybe he didn't, Ajay, get enough of an opportunity to play a big innings, but at least he made that impression. We talked earlier about the little cameo, that little OTT platform show, episode 1 of it. Didn't get to do an entire series, but nonetheless, he just put his hand up there.
Yes, I mean, it was a cameo. It was great to watch while it lasted. But like I said even earlier, you're batting at the number where the mighty Virat Kohli bats. And if you got to dislodge him, you'll have to definitely have more numbers than him. Yes, if you have a better strike rate, you will have a better chance. But unless you get more runs than him when you have a good day, it's great to look at. Fans enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. People enjoyed it. But I doubt that it'll make a difference to his spot in that side. And especially with Surya Kumar Yadav and the other Iyer, holding on to 5 and 6 as well. And 5 and 6 is something that, Shreyas probably doesn't enjoy that much. For him, it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's his style of play. Maybe have to wait a little longer. OTT platform has showcased what he's got. Some producer will have to come in and finance his entire movie.
DK, is there room for just one Iyer in this 11 for now?
I do think
in KKR you have room for 2. Sorry.
I think both of them will be there. I think both of them will get a good run in the Sri Lankan series as well. As we had spoken before, Virat has taken a break, so he'll get a fair amount of chances. I thought he looked really good while he batted. Just the intent with which he came, the way he took on the first ball, he edged it to first slip, just got lucky there. But the second one, played the same shot, takes a lot of courage and went over the top. So, his intent on the ball, the way his attitude, he's enjoying fielding. It just looks good. I just think, yes, I agree. It's a hard role to fill. I mean, you're talking about the world's best batter, but I think he will do a good job for sure. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, Jay, you were spot on. When it comes to the Kolkata lineup for this upcoming IPL, Iyer, and then pick another 9 players. That's pretty much
Iyer, Nair.
Fair enough.
Iyer, Nair, and Venki. Also, I mean, so more room for Iyers there.
Definitely is there. But someone who's not part of that setup, but made enough of an impression here, one of the veterans, if you almost call him that, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Again, we're coming back to slots, Ajay. We're looking at the fast bowling department. Harshal stick to box. Jasprit Bumrah is going to be definitely leading the way over there. But again, Bhuvi is the lovable kind. Everyone loves Bhuvi. And when he goes for runs or doesn't take wickets, you sort of feel for him. But he's a guy you'd want in your corner.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's one of those calm characters. He's a lovable man. Like you said, everybody, loves him, whether it's in the team, whether it's outside. He just comes and does his job and goes around, But, the talent that's around at the moment, when you think of it, if you are suddenly when you were talking, I was thinking, Jasprit Bumrah comes first to your mind. There's no doubt about it. I know a lot of people don't enjoy Shami, but I think Shami has a major role as well. With the new ball, he bowls differently. For me, those two. And Harshal now bowling at the end, the way he's bowling, so you pick him. And then, you need backups for these guys. So, for me, Bhuvi comes in as a backup now from them. He doesn't come into the side straight away as the top three. So, what kind of backup are you looking at? So you've got Deepak Chahar there between Bhuvi and Deepak Chahar. Who you going to pick? And both, I doubt. You need a little pace sometimes, because World Cup is a different ball game. World Cup, you need to play at different sides. The thing is that you're going to play Sri Lanka, so you might need pure pace there or something else. Then you're going to play England, then you might need something different there. Then you play Australia. So the more variety that you have, that allows a captain and a coach to play differently at different stages. And this format is very clear. I mean, you've got to keep surprising the opposition, because it's such a short format. If you have 3, 4, 5, 6 overs going your way, you take the game away. And semi-finals, most good teams make it. So it's at the end about those 2 games. If you're thinking of winning, I always believe that you have to prepare for those 2 games, the semis and the final, because qualifying, if you're worried about not even making it to that semis and worrying too much, then we should not be thinking about winning it.
Yeah, in fact, Ajay mentioned Deepak Chahar. I think probably like to add Shardul Thakur to the mix there of those players who are up for grabs in that one slot.
Yeah,
now, Deepak Chahar,
all of them. I mean, I don't want to single out anybody out.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's got a claim. But I'm saying at this moment, if you think of 3-4, these guys don't even feature in my 3-4.
And DK, one advantage, if you like, that Deepak Chahar and Shardul Thakur have is their batting. The argument on the other side is how many balls will a number 8 possibly get in a game. So then that's where you need to weigh that up and say, okay, if Bhuvi is delivering us purely as a bowler, he gets the nod. Let's not look at the batting as a anything but a bonus.
True. I think I think the way things are going, we'll have Hardik at 6, Jadeja at 7. Then we'll probably, if Harshal Patel is doing as well as he's doing, he'll be batting at 8. You don't need somebody who can bat at 9. You need whoever is the best bowler. And we've seen Bhuvi, Deepak Chahar, all of them, Shami, all quality bowlers. It'll all depend on how the IPL goes, and then things start to unravel completely differently post that.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think...
And similar to the batting, at the moment we have a plethora of batsmen who bat at 1, 2 and 3. Similarly with bowling also will happen. Not how many can bowl 18, 19, 20th over. You'll only have 2 bowlers, or at the most 3 that you can pick who will bowl 1 over each. So when they play for their own franchises or different teams, they're doing a similar job. They're doing an exceptional job. And that's where the selector's job gets tough, to select amongst those and say, okay, because they're not going to all play the same role. So how does captain want to, Bumrah is probably one that you could use him at the top, middle or later. But you can't use Harshal Patel to open your bowling. He might be your best bowler. His numbers will look the best. But you cannot use him as a new ball bowler, right? So how you're going to use that selection will depend a lot on that.
Yeah, well, bowlers might be one aspect. We've looked at the openers, but if you look at boxes that maybe haven't quite been ticked yet, we could talk about a 3rd opener, and the 6th bowler maybe hasn't been tested enough. Let's start with the 3rd opener. Big opportunity today for Ruturaj Gaikwad. I mean, just happened to be one game. He couldn't show his wares. Ishan Kishan maybe hasn't performed to the potential that we know he has, DK. So that's an area where maybe somebody else can be putting his hand up and saying, okay, fine, look at me as a 3rd possible opener.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt. I think as we keep saying, there are a lot of names as openers. It's and they're going to get very minimal chances because we know the regular openers are KL and Rohit. So there's always going to be a fight for the 3rd opener slot, and it's going to come into, is it going to be an extra keeper that you're going to take, or do you want to take a pure batter, or you want to take a right-hander, or who's done very well in IPL? There are so many permutations and combinations, and all of that, as we'll get a much clearer picture once the IPL comes to an end. I think we will know plenty of openers doing a good job, and somebody like a Prithvi Shaw could have a fabulous IPL, and then you're thinking about him as well. So it all depends on how the IPL goes, and then we'll get a much bigger idea. But for the moment, it does look like the 3rd opener slot is in the waiting, so to say.
Yeah, it is. And in terms of the 6th bowler, Venkatesh Iyer picked up a couple of wickets today. But as we briefly mentioned, with Hardik Pandya coming back, with I was going to say Ajay Jadeja, Ravindra Jadeja coming back into the side. I'll give you a break.
I'm ready.
So with those 2 coming in there, you will have that extra bowling option. But again, there's room for that with someone like a Venkatesh Iyer.
Yeah, he seems to be the only one. I mean, if you look at it, the last couple of years, the players who've come in, played for India, pure batsman. I mean, first you got to get into the side as batting and then bowling. He's probably is the only guy who's doing it. No one else bowls. Yes, I know Huda bowls off Spain, or that's a pure batsman. But all other guys who've come into the Indian side don't bowl at all. So if there is a edge that somebody is going to get for bowling alongside batting, then Venkatesh Iyer seems to be the guy. And just to tick your openers box, he's actually an opening batsman as well. So World Cup teams, or any teams that are tight, that is where you have a huge advantage if you're flexible. If you bat at different numbers, if you can add with bowling, and he needs to add a little bit of his fielding if he can get it better, then he will always be a certainty for a captain and a coach. Because if you don't have third opener, you'll say, yaar, isko le jate. If you have a guy who's wanting to bat at 6 or 7 or 5 and bowl a little, then say you isko le jate. So he has a huge advantage there. But if you get to that stage, when you have pure players, then you don't need him. And I think he's done well enough as a pure batsman to be one of those boxes to be ticked. And he's an opening batsman. So he is your most versatile player at the moment in this Indian side. So whatever team you pick, you can always fit him in. If you want him. If you don't want him, you can get rid of him.
And the good thing is that India have opportunities to continue to tick these boxes. So they will be having this discussion. We can talk all we like, but it's the Indian team, the think tank in the dressing room, the coaches, the captain, who will want to get together, put their heads together and see what boxes they want to tick come the Sri Lanka series, because the action will shift very quickly from Kolkata to Lucknow before going up to the mountains in Dharamsala and then moving to the test format in Mohali and Bengaluru. Of course, there's always going to be a discussion on biryani whenever you move from Kolkata to Lucknow. Hyderabad comes into the mix as well. DK, we've talked a lot cricket. I'll take a breather for 30 seconds. Lucknow, Hyderabad, Kolkata. Which biryani?
I like Hyderabad biryani. There's no doubt. I like it spicy.
Ajay?
I picked Tunda kebabs in Lucknow ahead of their biryani.
Fair enough.
And you got to go with Hyderabad. I mean, listen, I know Calcutta prides themselves on, they have a different kind of biryani. There's no doubt. The Calcutta biryani is out of this world. It has nothing. It is a very local Kolkata biryani. It cannot be compared to anybody else. It's like saying, is Mishti Doi better than, say,
Gulab Jamun.
Pont Chocolat in Paris or something, or Gulab Jamun in North India? You cannot match these things. These are special things. And wherever you go, you must enjoy them. So Lucknow, add Tunda kebab to it or gulati.
So fair enough. Then it's like making team selections. We're not going to put our neck on the line for that. Wherever you are, enjoy that cuisine. Even though I will defend Kolkata biryani to the hilt, but that's because I'm biased and that's because I'm sitting here. But that's fine. I shall excuse you, gentlemen, for picking Hyderabad and Lucknow over that. It's always good to have a smorgasbord. Everything on the table, try a bit from everywhere. What we don't want is too much of a smorgasbord in the test team, because we've had a few ingredients, a few key test ingredients that have been left out of the test squad, looking ahead to those 2 test matches that you saw in Mohali and Bengaluru. Let's just have a look at the test squad for India versus Sri Lanka. Rohit Sharma will be the captain, and a couple of key names missing there were regulars from the test squad. Firstly, reaction, Rohit Sharma, test captain, Ajay Jadeja.
Oh. See, Rohit Sharma is a good captain, not from today, from last 10 years maybe for me. So, it's just that his turns come now and he'll carry on doing. And if Virat Kohli is not leading and whatever reasons, there wasn't a better option than Rohit Sharma for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you're looking at already the limited overs captain. There are some nations who will say, look, we'd like to separate our captains, but this is another philosophy you can go with.
I have only one question, Gautam, not for you, for all, because we discussed many things, murmurs as well. For all those people who always felt when Virat Kohli was leading all 3 teams that, time is not for all 3 captains. Captains cannot hold on to 3 captaincy. It's too tough for them. So if it was tough for Virat Kohli, it will be tough for Rohit as well, no?
You agree, DK?
See, I think for Rohit, when it comes, I think tactically he's very astute, and the amount of cricket that he's going to play will define how how consistent he can play all three formats. We got to understand he's at a place where there is a lot of cricket being played, literally throughout the year. So that is going to be the big challenge for somebody like Rohit Sharma. He's a quality captain. There's no doubt. I think when it came to tactics, even in this T20 games, you could see he is well ahead of the game in most of the situations. The way he rotated bowlers, bringing them on at the right times. The way he brought Avish Khan back. If you take Shardul Thakur today, he bowled the first over for 18 and finished with 4 for 33. So the next 3 overs is given 15. So he's somebody who understands bowlers, when to bring them on, what to do with them. So, I think with Rohit Sharma, the question is always going to be how much cricket can he play, because we play literally throughout the year.
But of course, the other names we're talking about who are missing, Rohit Sharma is very much there. He's captain. We've evaluated that. Ajinkya Rahane, Cheteshwar Pujara. They've been an integral part of India's test setup. How do you look at this omission? A one-off or a message to the stalwarts, Ajay?
I look at it as it's sad. I mean, my simple first reaction is sad. If it was done a year and a half ago when India was still at the top, winning everything, I would have probably backed that decision. But at this stage, after losing first series that they've lost, that is unfair, because then you're looking at these two and singling out, and if that's not the way to build sides for me. A year and a half ago, I would have probably backed that decision. India's looking forward because this team does not belong to an individual. It's not about individuals. Whatever best possible and the way you want to play. When Virat Kohli wanted to play that aggressive cricket, you didn't allow that to happen. Once he's also gone and teams lost, now changing them, they've done enough. I mean, Cheteshwar Pujara scored enough runs. Rahane has done well enough. You carried on. Now, when the home series come, you've said goodbye to them. I don't know whether it's a permanent goodbye or not, but generally, when the series happens in India, no batsman fails. I mean, I can't remember a series where many batsmen have come back after an Indian series. Comebacks may happen when you go to overseas tours. So it's almost the end for both of them, and I feel sad about it that it's happened at the back of losing a series. Because then what it tells me is still rejections and it's still not selection.
Yeah, of course, the message from the selection committee is that this is a selection only for the series. And of course, they continue to play in the Ranji Trophy, DK. But yes, for two stalwarts like Rahane and Pujara, it's you almost want anyone in any format to leave at the right time, perhaps even on their own terms.
I think that's a hard one, isn't it, in Indian cricket?
Not that we're writing them off.
It's a hard one in Indian cricket. I don't think over a period of time, many people have had the opportunity to say goodbye the way they wanted. It's always been, a sad story, and that's how it is going to be. There's Ajinkya Rahane and Pujara for the moment, at least for this series. It will be somebody else later, and that's how it's always going to roll. But look, I think, again, they have Ranji Trophy. And there's just the one test series after this, and after that, there's a long break as well. I think till the end of the year, there's just the one test series. I think a couple of matches or 3 matches at tops. They play the one-off against England. So there's not many test matches. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to pan out after the end of the year, because they aren't playing any test cricket. They're playing the one test, and there's World Cup, and then there's a couple of home series where they're focusing completely on T20. So time is running out, to put it in so many words.
Yeah, and for Rahane, maybe he also has the option of showing his wares in perhaps a shorter format of the game. For Pujara, we're not going to exactly see him score 500 runs in the IPL, which he's not going to do. But so for someone like Pujara, Ajay, it becomes even tougher as a single format player.
No, absolutely. And Ajinkya has also been a single format for India at the moment. So when you leave them out of that one format, I don't see them coming back. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, because, these are stalwarts. They played 80, 90 test matches, and not just them. There's one more. We'll talk about him probably later, Ishant Sharma. But for both of them, I don't see, them coming back, because one, there is enough talent that's around. The next generation that's come and pushed them, there is enough talent, and they've not, to be fair, it's not that they've had best seasons and they've done exceptionally well, but this can happen to all players. So as a team, as a unit, the disappointing part is that because they lost in South Africa, you lost the captain, now you lost two more players and maybe one more with them. That is the sad part, because one loss after 3-4 years should not be making these decisions. If you are building a side, an ongoing side, you could have made this decision 1 year ago, 6 months ago, even before going to England or before going to, Australia. We had a great tour, but I'm saying you could have made that decision there, and still there were players who could have replaced, because there'll always be players to replace. There is no player, I feel, who can never be left out. Yes, there can be. But when you're building sides, there's a momentum going, there's what's happening. When you lose is the time where, you want to see your same mates around, because I know this is a Sri Lankan series that's coming up, maybe not so tough. But when it's tough times and you see left and right and say, oh, last tough times, you know what happened? That fellow disappeared, this fellow disappeared. That puts in a different fear into people's mindset. And that is why I'm sad. Not for two individuals being left out, because it's an Indian team. You want your best players to play, people who are in form. And these two definitely have not been at their best also.
Well, interesting. If you have a look at the choice of deputy to Rohit Sharma, again, somebody who's a permanent member of the side. DK, just a quick reaction to Jasprit Bumrah being the vice captain of the side. I mean, it kind of helps if you've sort of sealed your place down with nails and a hammer.
I think he was the vice captain even when KL Rahul was the captain for that one-off test match. So I think they're looking at him as a future captain. The chairman of selectors has said that it is up to Rohit Sharma to groom a KL, Rishabh Pant and a Jasprit Bumrah. So, they're looking at them as future leaders. So I'm very happy Jasprit Bumrah has made a vice captain personally, because I think he's somebody who's taken fast bowling to a different level, coming from a subcontinent and doing what he does and being consistent across all three formats over a period of time and being the best in the world as we sit here and speak about all the players is a great achievement. I think he's an absolute match winner. He has terrific skills as a leader as well. He's a leader of the bowling group. So, by all fairness, I think it's a fabulous decision.
Ajay, your take on Bumrah VC?
I think absolutely what DK said is, my echo the sentiments. Just add to that, maybe the selectors are looking and saying, this fellow doesn't want to play in India or hasn't had an opportunity. Make him vice captain. He'll come to play in India as well. And no, I was one of those who believes that, Jasprit Bumrah is a leader material in tactical, because I don't know him personally, but when you watch somebody bowl or bat, you get a feel of how they think at different stages of the game. What does a captain need? An Indian captain doesn't go and find players in India. There's maybe a myth. It's the selectors who find you players. It's the coach that, puts that team together. The Indian captain's biggest job is to have that tactical, knowledge, or to figure out what situation the game is in, what situation the ball is in, what should we do at that stage. And Jasprit Bumrah is a proven, player of that. I mean, when he bowls, you could see that. So for me, it's a good call. Why not? Because who's left now? Rishabh Pant has been made vice captain. Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli. How many? There's one more. Ravichandran Ashwin. So we are in that phase of everybody becoming captain, vice captain, and all that. This will go on for a couple of years, and then you'll settle down.
Shall we throw in your namesake into it, Ravindra Jadeja?
No, poor fellow's never been thought of.
No, he hasn't been so far. So I'm saying that's why I'm throwing his name in there.
Yeah, he's been around long enough. I mean, he's been around for 15 years. So, but there are certain players you don't think. Ishant Sharma has played 100 test matches, but even Delhi doesn't think of making him the captain. So certain players in Indian cricket always thought, no, this fellow can't be. And once you get branded, it's very difficult to change that. And I think Ravindra and Ishant have been in that boat. They've been around for very long. But I don't think any selectors are going to make that call.
Yes, and that's as far as the test squad is concerned. But of course, we've got players returning. There's going to be the T20 internationals coming up before the test matches. And that's going to be taking place in Lucknow and Dharamshala. And just a quick look at the squad from Team India. Key names to just pick from there very briefly. A lot of common players from this particular series, but I think Sanju Samson being added to the mix over there with Rishabh Pant not there and Virat Kohli not there. And then the name we just mentioned as a possible future Test vice captain, Ravindra Jadeja. So I think for the players who have not had game time, DK, these are a couple of names we'll look at. Sanju and maybe Ravindra Jadeja as well to try and make some sort of an impact. Deepak Hooda too.
Yes, so Sanju, I think, went on the series to Sri Lanka, and he had a decent one. I don't know. I don't think he set the world on fire, but another opportunity for him. It'll be interesting to see if he gets an opportunity to play. The good thing about this team is when they're comfortable with a certain place in the series, they don't mind trying players. Very interesting to see the long list of bowlers. There generally you don't see so many bowlers, but there's a long list of bowlers. A lot of people being given the opportunity. It'll be, I do think Deepak Chahar has a hip flexor thing. Generally, that takes a bit of time. So whether he'd be available is going to be very interesting. Deepak Hooda, again, did well in the limited opportunities he got in ODIs. So will he be getting a look in? When you do look at that list, it's hard to say who's going to be given a chance because you say look at it and each guy is a brilliant player for their franchisee. And, I just wish that Ritu and everybody else get more opportunities to showcase their skills.
Ajay, would you
DK, isn't it almost like if you would put a list of West Indian players for T20, 8 island teams, when they play, there's so many of them, you don't know how to pick. So we're going into that stage, I think, where we don't know who to pick because each one of them is better than the other guy. Sorry, what do you ask?
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's and also, I mean, we also speak different languages here. So if the West Indies is about different islands, India has always been like a continent more than a country. So they come from everywhere. They're different cultures coming in, meshing together as one. But would you even dare to try and make a batting order for that one sitting here right now?
Let's try. What's the harm? Put that list on. Yeah. Rohit Sharma is captain. Is he batting at open or 4? You tell me that because that's his mood. So you can't.
Let's give him back the opening slot for now.
Oh, if you give him back the opening slot, then you want. I would put in Rituraj Gaikwad or Venkatesh Iyer with him right at the top. So one of them comes in at 3. Ishan Kishan for me comes 4 out of those. Sorry, Shreyas Iyer I missed out, or I'll have to leave him out. If I bring Ishan Kishan in there, then I bring in Ravindra and then Deepak Hooda or Samson at 6. Then Shreyas gets left out. So it's between Rituraj and Shreyas Iyer. Only one can play for me.
DK, as you can see, the kind of headache Ajay was having right now is what the selectors will have and the team management will have and Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma will have.
Absolutely. I think they must be doing this every day and trying to, literally pull the hair out of their head to figure out what's the right 11. And that's the beauty of Indian cricket right now. We have a lot of options to choose from and there's going to be a plethora of options post IPL as well. It's about who you're looking at, what's the role for them and how you move forward with these teams. These are the important questions. You can always have a small-term goal, but a long-term vision is very important.
All right. And the little tradition we like to keep, I was just looking over my shoulder and I saw a wonderful little dartboard over there that's part of this club. And I said, that's one way you can do it. Put different faces on different parts of the dartboard and just have the selectors throw it at that. Okay, I've thrown it there. That's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Done. Sorted.
The coaches can use the software that they use for mock auction. When they go into an auction, they would do a mock auction saying, who can we get? If we don't get this, we get that. Same software probably could be used. You put all these names in, let it churn out. It'll give you many more teams. It'll give you 8 options.
Many combinations. Okay, let me make it easier for you. One player that you'd like to watch out for from the Sri Lanka T20I series. Ajay, you go first.
I'd like to see Venkatesh Iyer bat at the top. If not open, I would like to see him get more time because he's a player who's shown that even at this stage. So I would like to see him get more time at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever is possible.
DK?
For me, I think I'm very keen to see how Mohammad Siraj goes. I think he wasn't given an opportunity here, so it'll be very interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah, so at least, guys, we haven't seen enough of maybe Venkatesh Iyer in a different role. As you saw from that list, there's a long list of bowlers and a few returning players. So nice combination for India to take to the Awadh city of Lucknow. 1 in Lucknow, 2 in Dharamshala, then on to the test matches. Only thing that left to be answered is the joy factor question. Once again, an interesting one. And let's remind you of the question. The question that we asked you earlier when the game began. Not counting icon players, these 2 current IPL coaches were the first picks of 2 different teams in the first ever IPL auction. Name the players and their franchise. Now, I didn't have a go at this, DK, but I'm assuming Brendan McCullum might be one of them.
Yes, I have three names: McCullum, Sangakkara, Anil Kumble. So it'll be very interesting to see which two pop out.
All right, let's see what the answers are. Let's see if we've got any part of it right. The answer to that is, well, you were the one who had one round, so it's not Brendan McCullum. Poor Baz, I'm sorry. Mahela Jayawardene for Kings 11 Punjab and Anil Kumble for RCB at the time when they had what was cheekily dubbed a test team in season 1 of the IPL. The likes of Wasim Jafar, Shivnarayan Chandapal, Rahul Dravid, Anil Kumble, you name it. So there you go. And who was it who spotted that first? Fastest finger first. And it's Henil Dauda. Very good. Henil, welcome. It's definitely a name we haven't heard before. So well done to join in the fraternity. I know there's some regulars who occasionally pop in and tweet to us saying, no, I was first. Why did you not mention our name? Tanmoy, you know I'm talking about you. So we know you're always there. But sometimes it's like that software Ajay talked about. It just gets shuffled up and down. So don't worry, you're always in our plans.
You got to be a bit like Rohit Sharma. Just give opportunity for others as well.
Exactly. See, Tanmoy, if you love Rohit Sharma, you'll know that we're always trying to be fair. But that brings us to the end of 6-0 to Team India. But of course, for all of us, no matter what the result, we've had a blast chatting, bringing you the show, not just the three of us, but the entire team that puts it together behind the scenes. So once again, at the end of the series, thank you very much to Ajay Jadeja.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and it's been an honor to sit with both of you and talk cricket. And it's been great fun and watch some fabulous Indian cricket. It was great to see India come back in every game.
Free-flowing conversation is what we promise you and what you'll get much more of when Sri Lanka series comes around. DK, thank you very much once again. Love the art behind your right shoulder.
Thank you so much, GB. Thanks a lot, Ajay bhai. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's an honor to be sitting alongside you. And I hope you have, and this is, I keep looking and I keep blabbering away. But I'll tell you one thing. I have a feeling this will be your best IPL year. Because, the guys that are around you, I think you should have a good year. And all the guys that we are talking about, we're saying who has a chance, who doesn't have a chance. I believe when the IPL ends, it all changes. So I wish you all the best. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Aapke muh mein ghee shakkar and plenty more. Whether you're diabetic or not, you have to accept that. Dinesh Karthik, Ajay Jadeja, Gautam Bhimani signing off. Cricbuzz Live from this series. We'll see you soon. India versus Sri Lanka. Good night.